Hi, welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. And hey, I have to share an award this year. You know what? The Bowie Baysox. First time in 23 years, they won the Eastern Championship. And they're the only champions in this whole metropolitan area. So, I mean, hey, you better get your tickets now because I tell you, they play some good baseball here at Bowie. And what we have with us, we have the manager, what is it, general manager of the Baysox here. I know Brian Shallcross. I've been out there and I know what he's been through all those years because, hey, I've been out there at the same time, you know what I mean? But anyway, that's what we want to do is let you all know you have a champion here. And the only champion in the metropolitan area is the Bowie Baysox. Brian, welcome to the Ed Brown Show.
My pleasure, Ed. It's always good to see you.
Boy, I tell you, I admire you out there. I said, man, it's just year after year, year after year. You know, I said, Brian is all, and not only that, is that his crew, I think his ground crew got the #1 ground crew of the year. And what else happened out there?
It was a good year, huh?
Yeah,
we got a lot of accolades.
Hey, this is a good year. You thought I'd forgotten that they got a trophy too, and that field is magnificent.
Right.
And you all know where it is. Now, Brian, tell us a little bit about the Eastern League. You know, some people feel, you know, what is it for? How do they operate, and how does the system work? Tell us about it.
So the Eastern League is AA baseball. Minor League Baseball goes single A, double A, triple A to major leagues. There are 3 AA leagues in this country, 1 team for each major league affiliate. And the Eastern League has been around since the 1920s. So it's
wow, that's older than me.
And you and I have been watching games in Bowie for a long time.
For a long time.
So
right.
for people like you and I and the fans, and certainly the loyal employees that we've had over the decades, it was really a gratifying win to win the Eastern League title.
Okay, give us some highlights of that win. How you got in that position and some of the key players?
Right. So the championship series, you know, it's all about the pitching matchups, and we had a couple of veteran pitchers who really took the ball on some short rests, and certainly in the game 5, a gentleman by the last name Addington took the ball and in relief, normally a starting pitcher, took the ball in relief, went a few solid innings and got the win for us. And the series is the best of 5 series, and we were down 2-1 after 3 games. After 3 games, we're down 2-1, and we really mounted a comeback. And we had clutch hitting, some veteran hitters getting big hits at big times. Garibez Rosa. Quincy Lattimore, a couple of guys that really were crucial to our resurgence this year, and veteran guys who know how to handle the pressure of playoff atmosphere at baseball. And so those are the guys that the rest of the team jumped in their shoulders, and they took us to the promised land. We won 7-2 in the game 5 last Saturday. And the celebration is on, it's still going on.
Yeah, I guess so. We need to celebrate. We're still celebrating here in Prince George County in the metropolitan area because what happens, you know, when a team wins like that, you know, that shows the perseverance. A lot of people, too, don't understand what the young players in the minors, you know, what they have to go through. They might be called tomorrow, and then again, they might be there 5 years, 4 years.
Right. Well, and it's a grueling season. You play 142 games with only a few days off, and you come back in spring training. You don't get a lot of money, Ed. They work essentially as part-time employees, so when they make the playoffs, their pay actually gets extended through the playoffs. But it's a very difficult life, especially you and I were talking off camera about if you have a family and children. It's very difficult. You're on the road a lot. You could get traded, so you could be playing in Bowie one day and then Albuquerque.
And that makes it hard to really gel a championship team because you don't know, hey, that home run hitter or that pitcher, he might be gone tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I mean? So then you have to rearrange your team, and that's tough.
It's a fantastic point. Roughly 70 people wore a Baysox jersey between the major league rehabs that we had and different players coming and going. We had 70, but you have those core guys that we had pretty much the majority of the season, and those are the core guys that really were the impetus and the driver for the championship.
And really, you really have to admire them, because people don't understand a situation like that when you have to get up and move. You can't say, well, I call in sick today, I don't feel good. Boy, when they call you and you're on a minor league team, when the farm team is called, you got to react like now. Get on the bus or plane or whatever and get there.
Sure, and that's the difficult thing. You're always on call.
Yeah.
And so you certainly could get the call that you're going to move up, and you certainly that's good news to hear.
Right.
But you also can get the call that you're going down as well, or that you're going to another organization. So those are life-changing events that can happen overnight, blink of an eye.
Well, you had the AA, the AAA, and then the majors, right?
Correct.
And the Baysox AA.
AA.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Now, tell us a little bit about the programs that you have out there. I know I just admire them. You're part of the neighborhood, and that's what makes Baysox great too, because they add so much to the neighborhood, the schools, the education, the spelling, and and what I like what they have that after each game, I think every kid around here has ran the bases,
Sure.
the Baysox, because after the game they can go down and run the bases, and I think a whole lot of them, that's the only reason they come. They don't see no ball game. They come so, hey, after the game. And then the other thing is the entertainment that you have there is superb, has always been. And on the weekends, you always hear these fireworks, And this is the thing, and the family atmosphere. I think it adds so much to our area, because this gives families, that maybe they don't have the income to, go to see the big leagues, but you have your program set up, and I like to, commend you for the programs. All these years that you've had, I've had people, school teachers and councilmen and things like that, to make very positive comments on the contribution that the Baysox have. Just tell us, you have anything new coming up?
To piggyback on your comments, we have a role to play. We feel that we are a custodian of the public's faith, and certainly our facility is a public facility. So we believe that there is a responsibility there to uphold that commitment to the community. Ironically enough, tomorrow is our brainstorming session. So tomorrow is slated for all of our employees to put all of our ideas down on the table and see what community programs we can create. Take a look at the community programs that have worked well, how we can augment them. One program we're looking at right now is engaging with our local high schools with a career fair event to be focused on the.
And that's new.
That's brand new, yeah.
Yeah, that's brand new.
Right.
Yeah. So that's wonderful. That gives the youngsters an idea, of when you hit the majors, it's a lot of things they expected of you, and you had to have some discipline. See.
Right.
And they have to understand that. But the program with the books, I get teachers to always say, is that the kids, they want to make sure they read 3 books, 4 books, or whatever.
4 books.
4 books, and then you see the youngsters, boy, they want, that's it, and they go out on the foot from first base around the third base, they call the school's name, and you notice in the stand, the school representatives, when their school is called, boy, and I think that's what they came for. Hey, with the game, we come out, they call our name. But other than that, what else do you have in store for 2016?
Well, we're going to take a look at the promotions and take a look at what worked. There certainly was a fantastic promotional schedule we had this year.
Yeah.
Things that we did. We're going to take a look at the ones and put them in 3 compartments. The one that worked, the one that really we see growth potential, we can put more resources, and the ones that stunk. And then we just cut off the ones that stunk, and we supplement those with some new ideas. So we're always going to have, 8 or 10 new ideas that we're going to try, and they could fall flat on their face.
But you can keep Louis though, right?
Oh yeah, Louis is going to be a big part of what we do.
Right. Okay. So, what are some of the characters you're going to add to that group?
Well, we got Rocco.
You got Rocco.
We got Louis and Rocco right now are the 2 primary mascots of the Baysox. I don't think we're going to add any next year, but we'll take a look in the future.
But you also you get involved in the mentoring program with employees. Working with the different colleges.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we have a program called the Orange Ambassadors. And what it is, it's a program for college kids getting credit. We actually have had a couple of high school kids as well. And they really get a behind the scenes type of look at what we do as a career.
We're proud of the Baysox. They've been a tremendous positive thing as far as Prince George's County is concerned. And anything that ideas, you just had Brian Shallcross, general manager, tell you, they want new ideas. If you have any ideas, just send them in to Brian. And then, hey, that way we can make sure that we again get that trophy. So congratulations to the Bowie Baysox. And don't forget, you got to go to see it, okay? So, I mean, that's the way it goes. They got to have your support. You can't you can't say that they don't produce, because they're the only champions in this whole metropolitan area. That's all the teams. Okay, this has been Ed Brown, and we're coming back with Anisa, and she's going to tell us something about sweet spots. What are sweet spots? We'll find out in a second. Hi, welcome back to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. And we have a young lady all the way from L.A., Anisa Rashad. Now, she's going to tell us about this Anisa Rashad. This is her card here, and I'm trying to find out what is her game. Anisa, tell us, what is you traveling all over the world, and you end up on Ed Brown Show. Isn't that wonderful?
It's awesome, Mr. Brown. Thank you for having me. So I'm Anisa Rashad, and I help women find their sweet spot. So I've been working.
Their weak spot?
Their sweet spot.
Oh, the sweet.
And that's their SUIT
sweet
spot.
Their
sweet spot. So I've been working inside of corporate America for over 20 plus years. And
no kidding.
Yeah.
All over America, huh?
All over America, yes. So from the East Coast, when I lived here, I used to live in Maryland. And when I lived in Maryland, I worked at Goddard Space Flight Center at NASA over in Greenbelt.
No kidding.
Yes. Yes.
Fantastic.
So most of my career in the aerospace and defense industry, worked for Northrop Grumman out in Los Angeles.
Oh,
That's
wow.
actually what brought me to Maryland was NASA, and what took me to Los Angeles was Northrop
Well, I
Grumman.
was in the scientific field too.
All right.
I was a research chemist, Department of Agriculture.
Oh, wow.
And then I got into the media, so.
The rest is history.
Right, the rest is history. Everybody knows about that, But tell us, how do you function with this traveling? I'm thinking in terms of that airplane that, that happened with the co-pilot. You know, it took everybody down.
So travel is a big part of my job.
Yeah, that's
as
what I
it is
mean.
for a lot of women who work
Exactly.
inside of corporate America. And what I would notice for years and years and years that women inside of corporations had all the same challenges that men had, but they had some additional challenges. So, for example, in order to make this trip to LA, from LA to Maryland, I had to make sure that my household was taken care of. So my son had sixth grade camp, and my husband had things that he needed. And we are a blended family, Mr. Brown. So we have three kids on two coasts. So we have kids that live here in Maryland part of the time, kids, son lives in California. So there's a lot of coordination that goes into making the Rashad family work. As a matter of fact, when I leave here, I'm going to pick up my son and daughter that live here, and we're going to dinner this evening, later this evening.
Boy, I tell you, that's really stringing it out from coast to coast.
Yes, sir.
You know, tell me some of the things that you run into. Is the corporate world is pretty tough. On everybody. Because what happens with that is everybody said watch your back. Because in the corporate world it's just like people look at it as I'll do my mama in for a quarter.
They have a saying. They say they'll eat your young.
right. But and I noticed one of the gentlemen that's running for president there. He is a corporate exec, I think, of one of these big places like Costco. Are you familiar with that gentleman, Ben?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
I don't talk about politics too much.
Yeah, but that's really what runs this country. Eventually, it gets down to that.
Now, after the show, we can sit and talk about it for hours.
What it say for hours?
Yes, sir.
But and do you find the male or the female is more susceptible to this type of position?
For executive positions
that you're in.
So what I have found, and lots of research is showing, bearing true, that women who sit on corporate boards, companies that have women in the C-suite, companies that have women in senior management positions, they're finding, Mr. Brown, that they're more profitable. So
is that right?
Years and years ago, the case for having women was a diversity case because it was a nice thing to do. It was kind of a good natured thing to do. But studies are showing that it's actually the profitable thing to do, that it actually makes the company more money.
Well, you don't hear that. They just have a negative view. Oh, she's a woman. Type of expression that. She hadn't been exposed enough. My grandfather was exposed, my great grandfather exposed, and all these are males. Exposed to the corporate world, and the corporate world. That we have a tendency. That's not the true part of it, because every time you look, you see young ladies have moved. In fact, with the African American, the young ladies have surpassed the male.
In many instances.
This is a good example for the youngsters too, because you have different environments, where people are. Where mama stayed home, and and then you get another one. Mama went out to work, and you get another environment where the young lady is in charge of everything.
In my company, we're really starting a movement with these women that you're talking about, the ones who are inside of corporate America who are making big changes and making a difference. And so we have a whole group of women who have created or who are working on creating a JIL, Mr. Brown. You know what that is?
What? No.
Ask me, what is a JIL, Anisa?
What is a JIL?
A JIL is a JIL, a juicy integrated life.
So that they juicy, can be
integrated life, so they can be celebrated employees, super moms, and hot spouses, and even a hot date if they want to be a hot date. Some don't want to be a hot spouse, they just want to be a hot date. And really what that is about is really the celebrated employee. What is that? That is looking at being valued and appreciated inside of your job. The super mom represents the household. If you have children or if you don't have children, it's really running and managing your household.
Sometimes people call it arrogance.
We call what arrogance?
Super mom.
Super mom. Ain't nothing arrogant about it from my perspective. But it's really that desire that women have to really show up in a big way for their children. Like, you couldn't tell me that when I was in there taking the tape and labeling my son's sleeping bag and putting all the things in order so that he was ready to go off to 6th grade. I felt like the proverbial super mom with my little cape.
Well, the image this portrayed to youngsters, has totally changed from generation to generation, and it was because of segregation, really, and it had nothing to do with talent, because the versatility, I think, that the female brings to the business world is quite different than the arrogance that males portray.
I think it's interesting. The corporate world is made up of all different types of personalities, and some of the more traditional male personality traits, we're finding those showing up in a lot of women as well. And so it's really interesting to see how the dynamics inside of organizations are changing. And I think as women have that strong desire to show up in a big way at work and show up in a big way at home, you would hear women for years and years have this discussion around work-life balance, right? Want to, have it all. Want to be able to do it at work and want to be able to do it at home.
Yeah, tell me this. What about, in corporate world, male or female, funding is always a critical part of it. And what is your approach to getting involved in the funding of the business world?
And so when you say funding, what do you mean? Which aspect? Funding what component of the business?
The getting business, actually.
Just getting the business into for the corporation. Most of my time has been spent inside of Fortune 500 companies. So companies like NASA, which was a government agency. So we got our funding from the government, from your tax dollars. And then in companies like Northrop Grumman, we were defense contractors. So primarily we got our money from our government customers as well. So we were not out in the commercial world, if you would, looking for clients that way. We mostly were having conversations downtown and getting government contracts.
Well, your experience, did you find that it was difficult for minorities to get funding from the federal government?
Well, it's interesting. All major corporations have, and a lot of people may not know, they have offices that are set aside specifically to give funding to small businesses, minority businesses, startup businesses. So there are funds allocated for that.
Well, how does an individual, get involved with the contact? Which most people, when you talk about funding, and especially with it's an avenue that you have to take, and sometimes it's a political avenue. So how do you do that? How do you mix the political avenue with the world itself?
What I would recommend is that all small businesses, if you're in that startup phase, you would go meet with your local small business office, right? Most every city, they cutting back some offices, so now smaller towns are now combining. But most small cities have those offices where you can go, you can have those conversations. They can tell you how to set up the infrastructure of your business. Now they talk to you about social media. You can get a SCORE representative, someone who's a retired person to come and talk to you and help you plan. You can get somebody to talk to you about your taxes and how to keep your books.
Those are the things, what would you say, we can wrap this up, what would you say an individual out there a young lady or gentleman out there want to get into the business, how would they prepare themselves?
So education is key. So being able
Some of the educational routes.
So I would say education is key. Being able to be clear about what you want, being able to articulate your thoughts. I have an 11-year-old, my baby is 11, and I am always talking to him about being able to express what is in your head and what is in your heart, and then being able to write that, either saying it or writing it out. And so even starting from elementary school, middle school, high school, studying to get that scholarship to go to the various institutions. HBCUs, you talked about, you're going to have the president of Bowie on next week.
Right.
I have lots of friends who graduated from Bowie State University, so it's a fine institution. There are HBCUs, which are historically black colleges and universities. Then there's your University of Maryland College Park. So there are lots of schools and organizations that folks can choose from, young people can choose from.
What about how much does appearance mean? You know, a lot of youngsters, they have the different styles, and the business appearance is a little different.
Oh, so it is of critical importance to one of the things I teach inside of corporate America is about owning your personal brand, about recognizing that the company is a brand, but you are a brand inside of that company. You have to manage your personal brand. You have to manage how you're perceived. So that is how you show up in a meeting, what time you show up in a meeting, how prepared you are for the meeting. You know, all of that goes into managing your personal brand. So you have to think about, in your position, what is the highest job? What is the highest rank? If I'm in school studying law, do I want to be an attorney? Do I want to be with a firm? Do I want to be a judge? Do I want to be a Supreme Court justice?
Right.
You have to think about it from your perspective. Right. Yeah, and then you have to put yourself on the trajectory to get there. So inside of the company, a lot of times inside of corporate America, somebody will see you have some skills. They'll say, she would make a great finance person, or she would make a great IT person. And then so they tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, come take this opportunity. And a lot of people, Mr. Brown, spend 20, 30 years of their life accepting those positions that other people are finding for them and creating for them. I say, no, you should do it in the reverse. You should identify what's important to you. You should find out what your purpose is, and then you should make sure you navigate your career in the way that's in alignment with your given purpose, what you were born for.
Well, and you're traveling, like I said, we want to wrap this up, and you're traveling where you find one of the things that's really lacking for minorities.
What do I find is lacking for minorities?
Yeah.
You know, it's, in a lot of instances, it's the environment that they're in. Right. So there are all the food deserts that we hear about, where there are folks who can't get access to good food, good quality food.
Those are basic things, and then a person has to make a choice of what they're going to do. It's a lot of things that they have to make a choice, but sometimes they're not in the environment to make that choice, or they know what choices to make in order to be successful. But you've been successful because you come away with this new program. Okay, we're going to wrap this up with you telling us about where you're going next.
Okay, where I'm going next. And so I'm leaving here going to, I'm a part of an organization called Caliber, and it's an organization for African American senior managers. And we're having our global leadership forum, and I'll be the MC for their session on Friday.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm glad you made the stop here, at Ed Brown's show. Yes. We're waiting for you.
Yes, we have.
And you have to come back by here,
Yes,
because
sir.
we're going to have some additional things, okay?
All right, sir.
All right, this has been Ed Brown, and hey, see you next time.